talked a lot about the forecast for the Southtowns tomorrow and for the Bills game, as the Miami Dolphins are coming here for an 8:15 kickoff at Highmark Stadium. No matter the conditions on the field, it is a big game for the Bills. They all are this time of year. Buffalo can clinch a playoff berth with a win tomorrow night, while also keeping the #1 seed in the AFC and widening the lead in the division. So a lot's at stake as they take the field tomorrow night. Joining us live to discuss is our Bills insider, Vic Carucci, who you can also listen to on Sirius XM Radio. All right, Vic, no way around it. We have to start with the weather and this kind of discussion about how that's going to impact these two teams. They first met in week 3, and you remember the weather was a factor for that one too, right? It was so hot down in Miami. Miami had a bit of an advantage being on one side of the field versus the other. How do you see the forecast factoring in?
Well, I have to say, listening to Elise, very daunting when she was mixing that cold New England windy game, that Monday night game, with the Colts game, the infamous Colts game. I think I'm going to stay home. No, look, I do get to watch in the press box. I do feel for those fans who are going to be, and just remembering that Colts game, brushing those seats off. But let's talk about on the field. And look, it's no nicer for the Bills than it would be for the Dolphins. The assumption that this is just bad for the Dolphins, just as the assumption that too much heat was bad for the Bills in September, you know, I'm not really buying that. I know there are many Bills players who, first of all, hail from the South, A, and B, don't love cold or snow any more than their opponents. This is a game where, yeah, running the football would seem to be an important element for especially the Bills, something the Dolphins didn't do that well before, and I'm not sure how well they'll do it now. Your cleats, you hear players talk about this, the equipment staff, very busy making sure they have the right types of cleats to handle the footing, and often the visiting team, especially coming one from South Florida, may not necessarily be as well equipped to carry all of those extra shoes with them on a trip like this. You would think it would be obvious, but you never know.
Yeah, equipment becoming such a factor. You don't normally think of that. Weather aside, Vic, we know that the Bills did struggle in that September loss down in Miami. What is different now versus then? The roster obviously is a little different.
Yeah, and Michael, here's the other thing. A lot has been made, well, it was so hot that was really what did the Bills in. And I don't buy that. I buy the fact that they made a lot of mistakes, self-inflicted wounds, drop passes, drop pick sixes, passes bouncing to wide open receivers in the end zone, miscues on field goals. If they can tighten up their act, and we'll see how the weather affects this, the Bills should not have a problem here. They shouldn't have had a problem winning that game in September, but they found a way to lose. I don't think it'll be the same this time around. Yes, some personnel differences, but for the most part, this is about the Bills not beating the Bills.
Yeah, and Vic, on the other side of the ball, I mean, we talked a lot there about the offense, the missed, Josh Allen not having a perfect game, missed passes. Defensively for the Bills, how do you see them matching up against Tua Tagovailoa and the rest of the Miami offense?
Yeah, had this been about 3 weeks ago, I'd have probably told you, this is going to be really interesting because Tua was playing well, had this offense going. They were in the midst of a 5-game win streak. They've lost their last 2. And they haven't looked that sharp, losing to the Chargers and losing to the 49ers, and two teams that can play good defense, 49ers especially. I think the Bills' defense is formidable. I think they will give them problems. Again, remember that last game, they didn't really light it up on Buffalo. Tua, under 200 yards passing, his speedy targets, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, they didn't really tear it up with numbers of catches. They did have an occasional catch here and there, a big one. But this is a game where I think if the Bills play that kind of defense and contain the run as they did, keeping them to under 3 yards a carry, I believe it was in that game, no problem at all defensively handling that.
It's going to be a fun game to watch, whether you are out in the elements in Orchard Park or watching from home. Vic Carucci, always good to see you. Have a great weekend.
All right, my pleasure, Michael.
All right, thanks everybody for